On this day, 40 years ago, everyone remembers the first lines of this saga. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. That day, gamers were immersed in a world where a young boy fights against evil monsters, saves a princess from an evil lord, and obtains a powerful mystical artifact that has the power to grant wishes. Since then, this game has wowed many gamers all over the world due to its story, exploration, and vast worlds full of villages, forests, lakes, caves, and dungeons. Over the years, this saga spawned many games not just on consoles, but handhelds as well. It also spawned comic books, manga, an animated series, and in the next year, a live-action movie will be released. Some of these games were loved, others not as much. Some were loathed, but the CDI games not related to the series were abominations yet remembered for its comedic dialogue and horrible animations. This is a timeline of one of the most beloved and influential video game series ever made, The Legend of Zelda. Before time began, there was a formless void known as the Still World, where null would erase everything that tried to form. But then, three golden goddesses descended upon the chaos. They were Din, goddess of power, creator of the earth; Nairu, goddess of wisdom, who poured her wisdom onto the world and gave the spirit of law; and Faror, goddess of courage, who created all life forms that would uphold the law. As a result of their efforts, Null was imprisoned. However, Null tried to create the rifts that would devour the world and return it to the void. So the goddesses created the Triss to mend the rifts. And about returning the world to the void? That sounds kind of familiar, except this guy is from Final Fantasy. Once their labor was complete, the goddesses departed for the heavens and left behind three sacred triangles that combined into one, known as the Triforce. This sacred triangle became the basis of the world's providence. It is an all-powerful artifact that will grant wishes to whoever holds it. However, the Triforce does not discriminate between good and evil. This artifact wields three forces: power, wisdom, and courage. If the heart is in balance with these three virtues, then the wielder will gain the true force to govern all. But if the heart is not in balance, the Triforce will separate into three parts. Those lost parts will be held within others chosen by destiny, who will bear the Triforce mark on the backs of their hands. The Triforce was entrusted to a goddess named Hylia. One day, the Demon King Demise sought to take it and make the world his own. He raised an army of malevolent forces, and so began a war between the goddess and the Demon King. Hylia would gather surviving humans on an outcrop of Earth and send it to the heavens beyond a cloud barrier of her creation, which will become later known as Skyloft, where the Triforce will be safe. Hylia then gathered the surface tribes of the Gorons, Kikwi, Magma, Parella, and the ancient robots to fight against the forces led by Demise and sealed them away. Although Demise was sealed, she knew that he would not be sealed forever and devised a plan. As the Triforce cannot be wielded by a god, she renounced her divinity and transferred her soul to the body of a mortal woman who will come of age when Demise returned. She will create a blade called the Goddess Sword and the Spirit Phi to aid her chosen hero, who will be revealed once the sword was drawn from its pedestal. After the ancient battle, Hylia's people are now living in the sky and are nearly forgotten by the tribes that still remain on the surface for a millennium. Humans now thrive on Skyloft, a series of floating islands in the sky. Gaipora founds the Knight Academy to train Loftwing riding knights. The Sky Era is where The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword begins. In this story, Hylia is reborn as a young woman named Zelda. A student named Link is invited by Zelda to an annual ceremony where she will perform a song. But while they are flying under loft wings, a tornado forces Zelda down to the surface, prompting Link to search for her. Link is then led to the Goddess Sword, and he becomes the Goddess' chosen hero and is guided by Fi. The one responsible for Zelda's capture is the new leader of the Tribe of Evil, Girahim, who seeks to resurrect his master, the Demon King Demise. Zelda is then rescued by Impa, who helps her discover her identity as Hylia. Link embarks on a journey to obtain the three sacred flames of Din, Farore, and Nayru to empower the Goddess Sword to its fullest potential, which eventually becomes the Master Sword, the Sword of Evil's Bane, which evil ones may never touch. Girahim eventually captures Zelda and resurrects Demise, but Link is able to defeat him with the aid of the Master Sword and the Triforce. Demise then curses both Link and Zelda and their future descendants to a life of conflict, and that someday there will be someone who will follow in the footsteps of Demise. With Demise defeated and sealed inside of the Master Sword, the cloud barrier dissipates, allowing the humans to return to the surface. Once in the surface, they start to build a new kingdom that will eventually become known as Hyrule. The land of Hyrule has known peace for years until word begins to spread about the Triforce in the Sacred Realm. The power of the Triforce draws people and factions to war against each other in hopes of attaining it. Rauru, the Sage of Light, kept the Triforce within the Temple of Light and within the Sacred Realm to protect the relic from falling into the wrong hands. As humans can be consumed by their own greed and desire for power. Guarding the entrance to the realm was the Temple of Time, in which the pedestal to the Master Sword laid, and was further guarded by the Door of Time. And to open the door, one must collect 3 spiritual stones. When the Kingdom of Hyrule is established, a new era of prosperity begins. The royal family is charged with protecting the Triforce from evil ones and construct Hyrule Castle near the Temple of Time to watch over it. The royal family also enforces secrecy about the Triforce, and due to its strong blood ties to the goddess Hylia, many members of the royal family have special powers. After some time of peace, evil began to sweep the land of Hyrule once again. That is until one day the Picori descended from the sky and gave the hero of men the Picori Blade and the Light Force. That's right, the power of the hero in the Minish Cap is called Force, except no lightsabers or telekinetic powers, not even mind control. And so, with the power of the Force and the Blade, the hero vanquished the forces of evil and sealed them inside of a chest. The story became legend and was passed down through the tales of Hyrule. A young boy named Link, grandson to a blacksmith, is visited by Zelda, who invites him to the Picori Festival. It is a festival to celebrate the legend of the hero and the Picori. It is also said in that festival, one person is allowed to touch the Picori Blade. The winner of a sword fighting tournament is called Vati, and he is allowed to touch the blade. Once he approaches the blade, he reveals his sinister intentions by breaking the sword and opening the chest, releasing monsters all over Hyrule and even turning Zelda into stone. His reason for that is to harness the power of the Light Force and rule the world. Now, the chest that Vati opens, releasing the monsters, is a reference to Pandora's Box of Greek mythology. Pandora's Box was a chest that contained all the evils of the world, and when it was opened, all the evil spread to the world. But there was one light inside of it, and that light was hope. Hope is the last thing that one can lose. Link takes the sword he was supposed to present to the king, who sends him on a journey to restore Zelda back to human form, since only children can see the Picori. In the Minish Woods, Link meets a Cap called Eslo, who accompanies him on his journey to repair the Picori Blade and obtain the elements of earth, fire, water, and wind. During this journey, Link learns that Eslo was a Picori who created a magical cap that had the power to grant wishes. That is when Vati, a former apprentice of his, took the cap for himself and began to walk a path of evil. Link succeeds in repairing the sword, and with the power of the elements, he can split into 4 selves. With all 4 elements infused within the sword, the Picori blade became the legendary 4-sword. The final battle takes place in Hyrule Castle, where Link restores Zelda and finally defeats Vati. Zelda wears the magic cap, and with a single wish, she wishes everything back to the way it was. Eslo bids Link and Zelda farewell, and Eslo gives the young hero his trademark green cap as a gift. Centuries later, the evil Vati had returned to resume his campaign to terrorize Hyrule and rule over it. He sought to kidnap many maidens in Hyrule, who he then imprisoned in his new home, the Palace of Winds. He was then sealed by the hero using the 4-sword. One day, Princess Zelda and Link arrive to the grove of the 4-sword laid on its pedestal, and that's when Vati breaks the seal and kidnaps the princess. Link draws the blade from its pedestal and splits into 4. Link is tasked with proving his courage to the fairies with the help of the 4-sword. After proving his courage, the fairies help Link travel to the Palace of Winds. With the legendary blade, Link is able to seal Vati once again within the sword and save Zelda. There was a period when Hyrule was engulfed in a violent conflict known as the Hyrulean Civil War. One day, to escape from the fires of the war, a Hylian woman and her infant son enter the forest. She was gravely injured to the brink of death, and her only choice was to entrust her child to the Deku Tree, the guardian spirit of the forest. The Deku Tree could sense that the child was destined to be a hero whose destiny would affect the entire world. When the mother passed away, the baby was raised as a Kokiri. Sometime later, when order was finally restored, the King of Hyrule succeeded in unifying the entire kingdom. The Kokiri Forest, guarded by the Deku Tree, was populated by children who had their own guardian fairy, except one. His name was Link, who had the same nightmare every night where during a storm, he stood in front of a castle where a rider with a girl on a white horse would gallop past him, and he would be confronted by a sinister man clad in black, riding a black horse. The Deku Tree sent a fairy named Navi to be Link's companion and bring him to the guardian spirit. Saria and the other kids are happy for Link finally having a fairy, and Mido is jealous, of course. Once Link obtains the Kokiri sword and the Deku shield, he is brought before the Deku Tree by Navi. The Deku Tree gives Link a test of courage, which is to break the curse that was cast upon him. Link enters the tree fighting many monsters and destroying the parasitic spider creature, Goma. The Deku Tree praised Link for his bravery and success, but he does not have much time to live. He gives Link the spiritual stone of the forest and tells him, "Link, go to Hyrule Castle. There thou shalt meet the Princess of Destiny. Take the stone with you, that stone that this evil man wanted so much and cast this curse upon me. Present this stone to the princess. I have foreseen that she will understand everything. The Deku Tree tragically bids Link and Navi farewell as he withers away. Link then goes to Hyrule Castle and sneaks into the courtyard to meet Princess Zelda. Once Link shows Zelda the Kokiri's Emerald, she tells him about her prophetic dreams, which her father does not believe. Zelda then tells him about Ganondorf, the Gerudo King of Thieves. She believes that although he swears allegiance to the king, she could sense his evil intentions as he wants one thing: the Triforce. She then asks him to obtain the 2 remaining spiritual stones, the Goron's Ruby and the Sora Sapphire. Once he obtains all 3 of these stones, he returns to Hyrule Castle and sees Zelda and Impa fleeing, and she throws the Ocarina of Time at him. Link is then confronted by Ganondorf, who tells him that he will soon rule the world. Link then obtains the Ocarina of Time, which fell on the moat, and learns the Song of Time. Link then heads to the Temple of Time and plays the Song of Time to open the Door of Time. He then beholds the Blade of Evil's Bane, the Master Sword, and in the name of good and peace, he draws it from the pedestal of time. Exploiting the situation, Ganondorf took advantage of the moment the Door of Time was opened. He went on to invade the Sacred Realm and touch the Triforce and turn Hyrule into a world of monsters. 7 years later, Link would awaken inside the Temple of Light as a 17-year-old, as his spirit remained asleep since he was too young to be the hero of time. Rauru, the Sage of Light, then sends Link on a new journey to awaken the 5 remaining sages and add their might to his own. Link is guided and mentored by Sheik, survivor of the tribe known as the Sheikah, which served the royal family from generations to generation as attendants. Link travels to awaken the 5 sages that dwell in the 5 temples, 1 in a deep forest, 1 on a high mountain, 1 under a vast lake, 1 within the House of the Dead, and 1 inside the Goddess of Sand. This journey also included a travel across time back and forth. Once all the sages were awakened, Link met with the Sheik at the Temple of Time, who proceeded to tell him about the Triforce. Although Ganondorf touched the Triforce, his heart was not in balance with the 3 virtues of power, wisdom, and courage. The Triforce of Power remained in Ganondorf's hand because it is the virtue he most believed in, the power to rule over all. Link became the wielder of the Triforce of Courage, and then Sheik would reveal his identity. It was none other than Princess Zelda herself. Zelda was the 7th sage and wielder of the Triforce of Wisdom, and gave Link a powerful arrow capable of penetrating Ganondorf's dark magic defenses, the Arrow of Light. Ganondorf sealed Zelda inside of a crystal and took her to his castle. Link immediately ran to her rescue, and the sages built a bridge for him to enter the castle. In order to enter Ganon's tower, he had to bring down the 6 evil barriers. Once he did that, he would enter the tower and confront the King of Evil, and he said, "These toys are too much for you. I command you to return them to me." Link fought and succeeded in defeating Ganondorf in the first round, saving Zelda. They escaped from the crumbling castle, and they believed it was over. But then... Ganondorf used the Triforce of Power to transform into a beast called Ganon. Despite the odds, Link succeeded in defeating the Great King of Evil. Zelda and the 6 sages succeeded in sealing Ganon into the void of the corrupted Sacred Realm. Ganon cursed Link, Zelda, and the sages, vowing that one day when the seal is broken, That is when he will exterminate their descendants as long as the Triforce of Power is in his hand. Zelda felt guilty for all the tragedy that had befallen Hyrule and not comprehending the consequences of trying to control the sacred realm. She also expresses her guilt in dragging Link into it. To make up for her mistakes, she expresses her desire for Link to relive his childhood. She sends him back to the point where they first met, and Hyrule is restored to its peaceful state. As Link returns to his childhood, his beloved friend and companion Navi bids farewell to him as she tearfully flies away. The events of Ocarina of Time will cause the timeline to no longer be a singular timeline and would split into 3 timelines. After Ganon's defeat and being sealed in the corrupted sacred realm, Zelda puts the Master Sword back into the pedestal of time, thus sealing the door of time. However, when Link was returning to his childhood, the Triforce of Courage in his hand had shattered into 8 pieces. Many years have passed, and Ganon broke the bonds that held him in the sacred realm, and once again attempts to take over Hyrule. The people of Hyrule pray for Link, the hero of time, to return once again and vanquish the evil Ganondorf. Unfortunately, he never showed up, as Zelda sent him back in time to relive his childhood. King Daphnis no Hands in Hyrule then turned the fate of the Kingdom of Hyrule in the hands of the gods. The gods would tell the people to flee to the highest mountains and flooded all of Hyrule to get rid of the Kingdom of Ganondorf and his evil minions. This event became known as the Great Flood. King Daphnis was also sealed away, but his daughter Zelda takes a piece of the Triforce of Wisdom to the surface, while the other piece remains with King Daphnis. It has been a century since the Great Flood. Things have greatly changed as the Gorons no longer exist. The Soras evolved into avian humanoids called the Rito, and the Kokiri evolved into Koroks. However, peace is about to come to a crashing end as the King of Evil breaks free from the seal held on him, and attacks the Wind and Earth temples, killing their respective sages. This was done in order to diminish the power of the weapon capable of killing him, the Master Sword. He will build his base of operations within the Forsaken Fortress. One day, on Outset Island, a young boy named Link is celebrating his birthday. His grandmother gave him a green tunic as a gift. This tunic resembles the one that was worn by the legendary hero of time long ago. But then, things take a dark turn when a huge sinister bird known as a Helmarok King arrives to Outset Island, dropping a young girl named Tetra. Link immediately goes to help her in the woods, but then his sister is captured by the Helmarok King. Link goes with Tetra to the Forsaken Fortress to rescue her. Link arrives at the Forsaken Fortress and finally gets to where Arrow and other girls are being held. He encounters Ganon atop of the fortress, and the young hero is shunned by the evil king. The reason why Ganon has captured so many of these girls is due to him searching for Zelda so he can obtain her Triforce of Wisdom. Link washes ashore on Windfall Island and meets with the King of the Red Lions. He embarks on a journey to find the 3 sacred pearls which will allow the hero access to the Tower of the Gods. He finds Din's Pearl at the Dragon Roost Shrine located in Dragon Roost Island, home of the Rito. The next pearl was Farore's Pearl, located in the Forbidden Forest on Forest Haven, home of the Koroks, guarded by the Great Deku Tree. This Deku Tree is none other than the Deku Tree sprout that grew and flourished after the Hero of Time broke the curse on the Forest Temple a century ago. And from Lord Jabun, a descendant of the Sora Guardian God, Lord Jabu Jabu, he obtains Nayru's Pearl. He then races the Tower of the Gods, which grants him access to the sunken Hyrule. There, Link succeeds in obtaining the Master Sword, and Tetra reveals herself to be none other than Princess Zelda. Link then heads to the shrines of Wind and Earth in order to restore the blade's power and splendor and defeat Ganon. After restoring the sword's power, Link navigates across the Great Sea to find the 8 fragments of the Triforce of Courage. He then goes to confront the evil Ganon at Ganon's tower. Ganon was still very powerful that he knocked out both Link and Zelda. He then takes both the Triforce of Courage and Wisdom to combine it with the Triforce of Power into one again. Just when he is about to make his wish to restore Hyrule, the King of the Red Lions reveals himself as King Daphnis no Hansen Hyrule and touches the Triforce before Ganon can. His wish is to leave Hyrule at the bottom of the ocean and let the next generation make a much better world. Ganon laughs in anger, and the final battle begins. Link succeeds in defeating the King of Evil by stabbing him in the forehead with a Master Sword, and he turns to stone. Link and Zelda then return to the surface as King Daphnis bids them both farewell. Zelda returns to her identity as Tetra, and she and Link sail away, searching for new lands to colonize. Before we proceed, I still remember when I was 16 years old and The Wind Waker was released back in 2003. Me and one of my childhood friends thought that it looked too cartoony and kiddie, but when I played the game, it blew me away, just like Kingdom Hearts did. The lesson is to never judge a book by its cover. After Ganon's defeat, Link, Tetra, and her crew set off on a journey to find new lands to colonize. After a couple of months of searching the vast oceans, they come across a mysterious ship known as the Ghost Ship. Tetra goes aboard the ship in suspicion to investigate and is kidnapped. Link hops on to save her, but falls off and washes ashore to Murkay Island. He comes across a fairy named Ciela, who becomes the young hero's companion. Link's new mission is to rescue Tetra with Lineback and his ship, where he travels over the vast ocean in search of the Ghost Ship. After finding the spirits of power, wisdom, and courage, the young hero pursues the cursed ship. They eventually found it and rescue Tetra, but much to their horror, she was turned to stone. Oshus, the elder of Mckay who found Link, reveals that it is the work of an evil phantom named Bellum, and Link must now find the 3 pure metals in order to fuse the Phantom Zord. With the power of the Phantom Hourglass and sword in hand, he tackles the many floors of the Temple of the Ocean King. After surviving overwhelming odds, Link encounters Bellum and defeats the evil entity and seals him in the Phantom Zord. Link and Tetra return to her ship, and the crew tells them that only 10 minutes have passed. After surviving the 10 longest minutes of their lives, Link and Tetra witness Lineback's ship sailing in the distance, which suggests that their adventure was not a dream, but a reality. Link and Tetra had finally succeeded in finding a new continent that they named New Hyrule. On that continent stood a tower known as the Tower of Spirits, and across the land were the Spirit Tracks, which connected many realms throughout the land. In New Hyrule, the monarchy is restored, and every girl of the royal family will be called Zelda from then on. New Hyrule would flourish and thrive, and an extensive railroad network was developed and a new castle erected. Little did they know that the Tower of Spirits and the Spirit Tracks had a different function as a lock and shackle on the Demon King Malladus, who was sealed by the gods in the ancient past. 100 years later, the tracks began to vanish, and Princess Zelda decided to hire a young train conductor named Link to investigate the Tower of Spirits. She hands him the recruit uniform based on the same outfit once worn by the Hero of Winds. Link then realizes that Chancellor Cole's true intentions are to revive the Demon King, Malladus. Cole orders his assistant Byrne to capture the princess and take her to the tower in order to release Malladus. Zelda was able to separate her spirit from her body in order to prevent these events and teamed up with Link to help him reach Anjean, who gave the pair instructions on how to restore the tower. Traveling across the land on the Spirit Train, Link had to restore the barriers within the many temples across New Hyrule, allowing him access to the top of the tower where both he and the princess encountered Malladus in the Dark Realm. Using the Locomo Sword, Link successfully defeated the Demon King, and Zelda's spirit was returned to her body. Peace was then restored to the new continent, thus allowing the kingdom to thrive once again. This ends the adult timeline. Link was returned to the past by Zelda so he can relive his childhood. He then goes to Hyrule Castle and tells Zelda everything that happened. She gives Link the Ocarina of Time and teaches him the Song of Time. As a result, the Sacred Realm is protected. Done with the battles he once waged across time, he embarked on a journey, a secret and personal journey. A journey in search of a beloved and invaluable friend with whom he parted ways when he finally fulfilled his destiny and took his place among legends. That friend is none other than Navi, who disappeared after fulfilling her duty as a companion. Link is on his steed, Epona, searching for Navi in the woods. That is until he is knocked off his horse by two fairies named Tattle and Tail, who are with the Skull Kid wearing a sinister mask. The Skull Kid then takes the Ocarina of Time and Epona as Link gives chase. Link then enters a parallel world known as Termina, and is cursed by the Skull Kid, turning him into a Deku Scrub. Tattle is left behind by the Skull Kid, and to make amends with Link, she becomes his companion so she can reunite with her brother. Link then encounters a Happy Mask salesman, who tasks him with retrieving the mask that was stolen by the Skull Kid. He realizes he only has 3 days to get it back. He succeeds in getting his Ocarina back and plays the Song of Time before the menacing moon crashes on Termina. He returns back to his original form with the Song of Healing, taught to him by the Happy Mask salesman. He also learns that the mask the Skull Kid stole from the Happy Mask salesman is called Majora's Mask. It was a mask used by an ancient tribe known for its hexing rituals. It was so powerful and sinister that the tribe sealed it away to prevent its misuse. What became of that tribe? No one really knows. In this journey across Termina, Link heals the sorrows of not only the Deku Scrub, who was the son of the Deku King's royal servant, but also the sorrows of Mikau the Sora and Darmani the Goron. Link encounters many familiar faces that he knows in Hyrule and helps them all, thus bringing them happiness. Once he breaks the curses on the temples located in the Deku Swamp, Snowhead Mountain, Great Bay, and Ikana Canyon, Link confronts the Skull Kid and places an oath to order, thus breaking the mask's hold on the Skull Kid. However, Majora is not done yet, as he threatens to crash the moon into the land. Link goes with Tattle in the moon and passes the trials of Majora until finally ready to confront the latter. He is given the fierce deity's mask and succeeds in defeating Majora. The moon disintegrates and Termina is saved. The evil has finally left the mask and the Skull Kid has been redeemed for his actions. Link parts ways with Tail, and the Skull Kid, and the Carnival of Time begins as everyone happily celebrates. Link returns back to Hyrule in search for Navi, but sadly, he never finds her. Now that Zelda learned about Ganondorf's intentions, he was sentenced to execution by the ancient sages in the Arbiter's grounds. Because of time travel shenanigans, the Triforce of Power appears in Ganondorf's hand and breaks out of his chains, killing one of the sages. The sages banish Ganondorf to the Twilight Realm and are told by the gods to protect the mirror which leads to the realm at all costs. And as for Link, inspired by his heroic deeds, he becomes one of the Knights of Hyrule, and years later he dies in battle. He laments how no one remembered him as a hero of time, but vows to live on as a spirit to pass on his skills to someone worthy one day. In the Twilight Realm, Ganondorf gives a Twilight creature known as Sand magic powers. Ganondorf is attempting to merge both the Light Realm and the Twilight Realm into the Dark World, in which he would reign supreme. Hyrule Castle is then attacked by Sand, who gives Zelda a choice: life or death. Seeing no other way out, Zelda is forced to surrender, and the kingdom falls into darkness of the Twilight. Link is living a peaceful life in Orden Village. He works as a farm boy for the mayor and is good friends with his daughter, Ilia. One day, Link is tasked with presenting a sword to the royal family, but then a creature known as King Bublin appears and kidnaps both Ilia and Colin. Link gives chase immediately and enters the Twilight Realm and turns into a wolf. He then meets Midna, an imp who he is forced to team up with and accept as his companion. Link then returns to Orden Village and retrieves a sword and shield and returns to the Twilight to awaken the guardian spirit, Farron, and then awakens as the hero. Link's first task is to obtain one of the 3 pieces of the Fused Shadow in the Forest Temple. After successfully destroying the evil in the Forest Temple, Link heads to Hyrule and restores Kakariko back into the light, and reunites with his faithful steed Epona. He then rescues Colin from King Bublin in an epic battle at Elden Bridge. He earns the Goron's trust by passing the test of strength and saving the Goron leader, Thyrus, from the Fused Shadow's dark influence. Link would later unfree Sora's domain and save Prince Rallis with the help of Telma and an amnesiac Ilia. After that, Link obtains the 3rd Fused Shadow at the Lakebed Temple, and just when Midna is about to use the Fused Shadows to restore to her original form, Sand has been anticipating this moment and turns Link into a wolf once again, and Midna is struck down and about to die. Link returns to Hyrule Castle, and with the help of Princess Zelda, she gives her light to Midna to resurrect her. The duo then goes to the Lost Woods to obtain the Sword of Evil's Bane and restore Link to his human form. Once Link arrives to the Sacred Grove, he passes the test, and the sword removes an artifact from his head. He would then lift the Master Sword from its pedestal once again. Their next journey is to find Zand, but the mirror to the Twilight Realm located in the Arbiter's grounds is broken. So then, Link and Midna then head to find the missing pieces at Snow Peak, the Temple of Time, and the Sky Temple. Throughout this journey, Ilia recovers her memory and Link is trained by a spirit, teaching him all of his techniques. This spirit was once known as the Hero of Time, who lamented that after returning to his childhood, no one remembered his heroic deeds, but lingered to pass on his techniques to someone worthy, and now he can rest in peace, knowing that Hyrule will be safe. Link and Midna then head into the Twilight Realm after finally gathering all the pieces of the Mirror of Twilight. The Master Sword is empowered with more light, and Link battles against the evil Sand and is triumphant. The barrier at Hyrule Castle is then broken, and Link heads there to confront the mastermind of all of this, the evil King Ganondorf. Link fights a possessed Princess Zelda, the Dark Beast Ganon, and finally defeats the evil king himself in a sword duel. Ganondorf warns Link and Zelda that this is not the end. As long as those of their blood exist, there will be others who share his blood, and the cycle will repeat once again. Ganondorf then dies, and the Triforce of Power disappears from his hand. Midna then returns to her original form and bids both Link and Zelda farewell. She breaks the mirror, ensuring there will be no longer any interference between the two realms. Hyrule has been at peace for hundreds of years. Relations with the Gerudo have improved and everything seems to be calm. But peace is so fleeting as evil can always return to bring misery and wreak havoc. Ganon, a reincarnation of Ganondorf, stole the trident from the ancient pyramid and the dark mirror from the Temple of Darkness. His scheme is to release Vati from his seal in the Four Sword and created Shadow Link to aid in doing so. The six maidens attempted to renew the seal on Vati, but Shadow Link scattered them. Shadow Link would trick the real Link into pulling the Four Sword from its pedestal, thus releasing the evil Vati from his seal with the side effect of making 4 copies of Link. With the power of 4, the 4 Links would proceed to save the maidens and got 4 jewels from the Knights of Hyrule that were turned into Stalfos by Shadow Link. Their final destination was the Temple of Winds, where Vati was finally destroyed and Ganon was sealed in the Four Sword. This marks the end of the Child Timeline. It is known that at the end of Ocarina of Time, there was a split in the timeline due to time travel shenanigans. In 2 timelines, the hero is successful in defeating Ganondorf. However, there is a 3rd timeline which is somewhat of an alternate reality, where Link has been killed by Ganondorf despite his best efforts. Once Ganondorf killed Link, he took the Triforce of Courage from Link's corpse, and forcefully stole the Triforce of Wisdom from Princess Zelda. Once the whole Triforce was in his hand, he became Demon King Ganon. Seeing no other choice, Zelda and the 6 sages sealed the evil Ganon inside of the corrupted sacred realm. Princess Zelda laid the Master Sword to rest in its pedestal until the day a new hero is born and proves himself worthy of lifting the legendary blade. Although victory came at a high price, the consequences were severe. Now, the entire world knows about the existence and location of the Triforce. Many people and factions sought to aggressively enter the corrupted sacred realm to attain the Triforce. Due to Ganon's corrupting influence and their human greed, many who entered the sacred realm, now known as the Dark World, became evil monsters for the evil king's army. This evil army began to attack Hyrule, and the 7 sages were commanded by the king to seal the Dark World once again. The Knights of Hyrule fought and died protecting the sages, allowing them to complete the ritual to seal the Dark World. This event is known as the imprisoning war. Eons have passed since the imprisoning war, and a series of disasters were striking Hyrule. A wizard named Aganim stopped these disasters and became the king's chief advisor. However, his sinister plans will come to light as he eliminated the king, brainwashed the soldiers, and captured 6 maidens that were descendants of the 7 sages. He sends these maidens to the Dark World, and Princess Zelda's time is nearing. While sleeping, Link hears a telepathic message from the princess calling for help. His uncle goes to Hyrule Castle to investigate and tells him to not leave the house. Disobeying his uncle, Link goes to the castle, only to find his mortally wounded uncle, and takes a sword and shield at his uncle's request. His last request is to rescue the princess and to not fall victim to fate. Link goes into Hyrule Castle and succeeds in rescuing the Princess Zelda. She leads him to an underground area leading to the sanctuary, where she is kept safe by the priest. In order to fight against the evil wizard, Link must obtain the 3 pendants of virtue, the pendants of courage, wisdom, and power. Once he obtains them, Link can wield the Master Sword. Exploiting the situation, Aganim succeeds in recapturing the princess and taking her to Hyrule Castle. Though Link arrives, he is too late as Aganim vanishes Zelda into the Dark World. Not willing to cry over spilled milk, Link confronts the evil wizard, but during the battle, he is pulled into the Dark World. Link must now rescue the 7 maidens, including Zelda, who was sent to the Dark World by Aganim. The maidens are sealed in dungeons full of monsters and dangerous traps. After rescuing all the 7 maidens, Link confronts Aganim at Ganon's tower and is successful in destroying him. But it turns out that Aganim was being controlled by Ganon all along. With the power of the Master Sword, Link finally defeats Ganon. The Triforce appears before the hero, and he makes a wish upon the Triforce. He wishes for peace to return to the world. The Triforce returns in the hands of the royal family, Link's uncle revives, and the Master Sword sleeps once more. After Link saves Hyrule from Ganon, he travels to hone his skills, knowing that evil never takes a break. But during a storm, his ship was struck by lightning, causing him to fall into the sea and washing ashore on a mysterious Koholint Island. He is found by a girl called Marin and is nursed back to health in Mape Village. A mysterious owl then tells him that the only way he can go home is to awaken the wind fish using the instruments of the sirens. In this journey, he and Marin become good friends, and she shares her dream of becoming a seagull and flying away. She will also help him in awakening a sleeping walrus by singing the ballad of the wind fish. During this journey, Link realizes that Koholint Island is an illusion created by the wind fish. The mysterious owl is then revealed to be the spirit of the wind fish and forces Link to make an impossible decision. At Tall Heights, Link plays the ballad of the wind fish using the instruments of the sirens and destroys the nightmares. Having no other choice, he played the ballad of the wind fish once again to awaken the wind fish and himself from the dream. And it turns out that Marin made her wish come true of becoming a seagull and flying away. After Link returns to Hyrule, he he enters the Triforce chamber where the sacred relic sends him on a new quest to the worlds of Holodrum and Labrina. At Holodrum, Link meets the dancer Din, who entertains her friends with her happy dancing and music as well. But then, General Onyx appears and captures Din, who is revealed to be none other than the Oracle of Seasons. Impa, who is Princess Zelda's caretaker, helps Link and tells him to visit the Mako Tree. The Mako Tree then tasks Link to find the 8 essences of nature and obtain the Rod of Seasons. After obtaining the first of the essences, Link heads to the Temple of Seasons, located in the subterranean realm of Subrosia. With Din captured, the seasons are out of place in different eras of Holodrum. Link succeeds in obtaining the Rod of Seasons and imbues it with the power of the 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. After obtaining the rest of the essences of nature, he defeats the evil General Onyx and saves Din. Link's next journey takes him to the world of Labrina, where he meets a singer named Nayru, who, with her lovely voice, enchants the animals and people. Nayru, who is revealed to be the Oracle of Ages, is captured by the evil sorceress Varen. With the help of a different Mako tree and using the Harp of Ages, Link travels between the past and the present, obtaining the essences of time, and manages to defeat the evil sorceress Varan. The deaths of Onyx and Varan were all part of Tunrova's plan to resurrect the evil Ganon. They needed the flames of despair, sorrow, and destruction lit along with a human sacrifice. Zelda was to be the sacrifice, but Link successfully rescued her and engaged in battle with Twinrova. Link defeats Twinrova, who sacrifices the last of their power to resurrect Ganon. However, this Ganon is dim-witted, but powerful. Link succeeds in defeating Ganon and bids farewell to the people of Labrina. He and Zelda then set out to return to Hyrule. Centuries have passed, and a new Link would rise to take the Master Sword to fight against evil. Peace remained in Hyrule until the evil sorcerer Yuga arrived to capture descendants of the 7 sages. Unlike Aghanim, who sent them to the Dark World, he trapped them inside paintings. And just like the ancient hero, Link was tasked with searching for the 3 pendants of virtue. After receiving the Pendant of Courage from Zelda, a mysterious merchant named Ravio moved his business into Link's house, and thanks to his magical bracelet, Link was not stopped when Yuga attempted to turn him into a painting. This bracelet gave Link the ability to merge into walls. After obtaining the 3 pendants of virtue, Link managed to obtain the Master Sword in the Lost Woods. He would go on to destroy the barrier surrounding Hyrule Castle and defeat Yuga, who trapped Princess Zelda inside of a painting, yet managed to escape inside the crack of a wall. Link would enter the crack and was transported into a parallel version of Hyrule, known as Lorule. Using the 7 paintings of the 7 sages, Yuga revived Ganon with the Triforce of Power, yet was stopped at the moment by Lorule's princess, Hilda. The hero freed the trapped sages, obtained the Triforce of Courage, and battled against Yuga in the final showdown at Lorule Castle. But then, the tides turned, as this was all orchestrated by Princess Hilda in order to save her kingdom of Lorule after her predecessors destroyed Lorule's Triforce in the past. The reason why Lorule's Triforce was destroyed was because they believed that it was the source of all conflicts. Princess Hilda would then extract the Triforce of Wisdom from Princess Zelda and demanded Link to turn over his Triforce of Courage. Link refused to do so. She would send Yuga to destroy him, but Yuga betrayed Hilda and took the Triforce of Wisdom from her. In that very moment, Zelda handed Link the Bow of Light. After a long battle both in and outside the walls, Link manages to destroy Yuga Ganon and obtain the complete Triforce. Ravio would reveal himself to be Link's Lorulean counterpart. As the world of Lorule was about to come to an end, Link and Zelda touched the Triforce and made a wish to restore the Triforce of Lorule, thus saving it and a grateful Princess Hilda from certain doom. Link left the Kingdom of Hyrule to travel and ventured into the Kingdom of Hytopia. There, he is recruited by the Witch Hunting Brigade to defeat the evil witch, Lady Maud. Princess Styla was cursed by Lady Maud into wearing an irremovable brown jumpsuit. Link would then team up with two look-alike heroes to gather the pieces of the Lady's ensemble. They obtained the last piece by defeating Lady Maud. Madame Coulter, the witch's younger sister, would assemble the outfit. With the ensemble completed, Princess Styla is freed from her cursed One Piece. It has been ages since Link prevented Ganon's return, but then mysterious rifts begin to pop up across Hyrule and Zelda gets kidnapped by Ganon. Link is pulled into a rift in the southern ruins after saving Zelda. She then returns to Hyrule Castle to inform the king about the rift and Link's disappearance, but the king, along with his advisors, is pulled into the rift by Noel and replaced with imposters. Zelda is framed for the rifts and is sentenced to death. While awaiting execution, Tri appears before her to help and gives her the Tri-Rod, a magical staff capable of creating echoes of objects and enemies. With this new power and Impa's assistance, Zelda manages to escape. She then goes into the rift of Southern Forest and encounters a dark echo of Link wielding the Sword of Might. After liberating the Tris, Tri and her friends clear the rift. Two other rifts were spotted in the Gerudo Desert and Jabul waters, with the Tris being trapped in Morgriff and Vocavor. Once the rifts are cleared, Zelda returns to Castle Town where the rift that swallowed the king expands to engulf the whole town. Zelda fights Ganon in the rift and Link appears to help, but gets kidnapped by Noel. When the king is reunited with Zelda, three more rifts appear in Eldin, Mount Lanayru, and Faron. When the rifts are cleared, the three golden goddesses give Zelda with their sanction, and Noel echoes Zelda to gain the sanction. In the Eternal Forest, Noel tries to obtain the Triforce, but his spirit is imbalanced, leading him to getting only the Triforce of Power, while as per tradition, Link and Zelda get the Triforce of Courage and Wisdom respectively. Joining forces, Link, Zelda, and Tri confront Noel for the last time, and all the rifts across Hyrule finally disappear. Generations later, Hyrule enters a new golden era and flourishes. The last king of Hyrule doubted his son's worthiness and hid the Triforce of Courage in the Great Palace. Upon his death, he casted a spell on Hyrule such that a crest will one day appear on someone worthy of wielding the Triforce of Courage. The king would entrust the location of such a relic to his daughter, Princess Zelda. Once the prince ascended the throne, he only inherited both the Triforce of Power and Wisdom. A dark magician named Karok would abet the new king, and he questioned Princess Zelda about the location of the Triforce. When she refuses, an infuriated Karok places her under a spell of eternal slumber. Filled with regret, the new king places the princess on the altar in North Castle. He later declared that all women born into the royal family are to be named Zelda. The king tried to rule Hyrule to the best of his ability, but without the power of the full Triforce, the kingdom falls into decline. As the Triforce of Power and Triforce of Wisdom is passed down from generation to generation, the existence of the Triforce of Courage is long forgotten. And here we are, the first game of the series which turns 40 today. Now, many years later, an evil army led by the resurrected Ganon attacks Hyrule and steals the Triforce of Power. To keep the Triforce of Wisdom from falling into the Dark Lord's hands, Princess Zelda, a descendant of the sleeping Zelda, splits it into 8 parts and hides them throughout Hyrule. The princess sends Impa to find someone strong with the courage to defeat the evil Ganon before she is captured. A traveling Link rescues Impa from Ganon's minions and learns of the evil lord's invasion of Hyrule. He then obtains his first sword from an old man who tells him, "It's dangerous to go alone. Take this." After venturing into many dungeons and overcoming trials and overwhelming odds, Link obtained all the 8 pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom. He then went into Ganon's lair, located on Death Mountain. Using the Triforce of Wisdom, the magical sword, and the silver arrows, Link defeats the Demon King and rescues Zelda, who declares him the hero of Hyrule. Six years have passed since the events of the first game, and Ganon's minions are furious looking for revenge against the one who slayed their master. In order to revive their master, they need the blood of the one who slayed him poured on his ashes, Link. On his 16th birthday, a crest of the Triforce appears on the back of Link's hand. Impa then tells him the story of Princess Zelda I and takes him to North Castle, where he sees the sleeping princess. She can only awaken with true love's kiss, with the power of the Triforce of Courage located in the Great Palace. In order to break the seal of the Great Palace, crystals must be placed in statues in 6 well-guarded palaces and defeat the guardians defending those statues. Link defeats the 6 guardians and places the crystals on the statues in order to gain access to the Great Palace. Link succeeds in defeating the monster known as Thunderbird, and in one final trial, he conquers his own darkness by defeating his shadow to obtain the Triforce of Courage. Link returns to North Castle and uses the Triforce of Power, Wisdom, and Courage to awaken the sleeping princess. Princess Zelda I awakens, her curse broken, and peace is restored once again. All's well that ends well. According to Eiji Aonuma, the timeline of the games Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom take place at the end of one of the 3 timelines. But Hidemaru Fujibayashi stated in the same interview that which one of the 3 timelines was up to the player's imagination. Some fans believe that the events of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are a convergence of the 3 timelines taking place eons after the end of where the 3 timelines ended, while other fans debate that the 3 games, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and Age of Imprisonment are a separate timeline that serves as somewhat of a reboot of the series. To be honest, I kind of see it as more of a convergence of the 3 timelines, since there are many familiar places named after different areas from previous games. And what's also interesting is that the Soras and the Rito are 2 different races rather than evolved from the other. To be honest, as much as I loved the Wind Waker, I didn't like the Rito being evolved from Soras because it doesn't make any sense. I mean, sure, the Soras in various games are often in the rivers, but if you played Majora's Mask, you can see that they can also survive in the seawater. If you think that the 3 games I've mentioned are a separate timeline or a convergence, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks. And now, let us continue. Long ago, before the founding of the Kingdom of Hyrule by King Rauru and Queen Sonia, there were the Zonai. The Zonai were a prehistoric civilization that descended from the Sky Islands far above, appearing to the people of Hyrule as if they were gods. They were known for their advanced technology, and they also had powers that bestowed upon them by the secret stones and were charged with protecting the goddess Hylia. These secret stones allowed them to amplify an individual's magical abilities, which are elements such as water, fire, electricity, wind, time, spirit, light, and darkness. Once they came to the surface, the Zonai lived in the Faron region. They were strong magic wielders and worshipped a water dragon. Their stone artwork represents a Triforce through the perspective of a prehistoric tribe. They used the dragons to represent courage, owls to represent wisdom, and boars to represent power. It is known that the Zonai's physical appearance resembled those of Hyenidae, with remarkably long ears covered in dark gray and have white manes of hair. They have 3 eyes, but tend to keep the third one closed, making the eyelash resemble a jewel on their forehead. They also have sharp triangular teeth and are much taller than Hylians, with their tall bodies making up for their shorter legs. The last surviving descendants of the Zonai were Rauru and his sister Minoru. Eventually, Rauru would meet a Hylian priestess named Sonia, born in the land of Hyrule, and the two will fall in love and marry. They will become the founders of the Kingdom of Hyrule and become its first king and queen. They will build Hyrule Castle near the Temple of Time, and years afterwards, every member of the royal family was born with special powers given that they were blood relatives of the goddess Hylia and inheritors of King Rauru's power over light.
Generations would call the imprisoning war.
During the reign of King Rauru and Queen Sonia, Ganondorf, first incarnated as a soul male of the Gerudo, had coveted Hyrule for himself. However, his previous invasions had been thwarted due to the power of Rauru's stone. Rauru allowed Ganondorf to swear allegiance to him, yet anticipated his treacherous and sinister intentions under the assumption that he could easily watch over Ganondorf. However, this strategy only backfired as Ganondorf murdered Sonia and stole the secret stone for himself, becoming known as Demon King Ganondorf upon using it. There was a long war against the evil king, but their power was not enough to stop the empowered Demon King Ganondorf. Rauru ultimately sacrificed himself to seal Ganondorf away in a hidden chamber deep beneath the site that will become Hyrule Castle, trusting in the hero that the Sage of Time, Zelda, had told him about to defeat Ganondorf in the distant future. The Sky Islands were raised into the sky from the surface in this time period, as Rauru anticipated that the future hero would need the resources and wished to ensure that the Demon King could not reach them. "10,000 years before the event of Breath of the Wild, there was a tribe known as the Sheikah, which developed advanced technology allowing the kingdom of Hyrule to flourish and thrive. They will also build mechanical weapons known as guardians and divine beasts in preparation for the return of Ganon. With the help of the reincarnation of Link and Zelda, and the help of the guardians and divine beasts, Calamity Ganon was sealed. But the king started to grow suspicious and paranoid of the Sheikah tribe, fearing betrayal. The divine beasts were then driven underground by the king's orders. The Sheikah would then be divided as some of the members of that tribe would swear their allegiance to Ganon and become known as the Yiga clan to exact revenge for their mistreatment. The Yiga clan can be distinguished from their red ninja-like suits and the inverted symbol of the Sheikah tribe that are drawn on the masks that they wear. The Sheikah would then scatter and abandon their technology, which would reduce Hyrule to a primitive state over the following millennia. Eventually, the Sheikah would settle in Kakariko Village and no longer be banished. About 9,883 years after the last battle, there was a prophecy of Calamity Ganon's return. A new princess named Zelda is born, as is tradition. The people of Hyrule started to search and excavate for the guardians and the divine beasts in order to prepare for what is about to come, as their ancestors did before them. The chosen wielder of the Master Sword happened to be a young Hylian knight named Link, who was the one that could pull the Master Sword from its pedestal in the Korok Forest. The 4 pilots of the Divine Beast were Daruk of the Goron tribe, Mipha of the Sora tribe, Urbosa of the Gerudo tribe, and Revali of the Rito tribe. Along with Link, they will become known as the Champions. A now 17-year-old Princess Zelda trains herself to awaken her sealing powers, and Link has been assigned as her protector. During this time, the two of them share a bond, yet at times she felt resentful of her role and Link's as well. She was determined to awaken her powers during her prayer at the Spring of the Goddess, but unfortunately was unable to. While praying at the Spring of Wisdom, Calamity Ganon would eventually appear and take over Hyrule Castle, and the 4 pilots would eventually take their positions. Although they had been training and anticipated this moment, the tides would turn against them as Calamity Ganon's power spawned 4 incarnations known as Malice, and would eventually take control of the Guardians, turning them against Hyrule, and to make matters worse, the Malice would end up possessing the Divine Beasts. The champions were killed, and the Divine Beasts were possessed by Calamity Ganon. Hyrule was reduced to ruin. Link was mortally wounded to the brink of death protecting Zelda, who had awakened her sealing powers while fleeing from the Guardians. Link was then taken to the Shrine of Resurrection to sleep for a century so that he can recover. Zelda returned the Master Sword to Korok Forest and laid it to rest, and then would confront Calamity Ganon on her own and manage to seal it. Although, this would mean she would have to enter an imprisoned state to maintain the seal, as she could not completely seal away Ganon away while he was unharmed by the Master Sword. It has been a century since the fall of the champions, and Link has awakened after recovering in the Shrine of Resurrection without any memory of the past. Princess Zelda's sealing power has weakened and Calamity Ganon has returned. Link would venture forward, with the Sheikah Slate left to him by Zelda, and was guided by the spirit of King Roam, who explained to Link what happened in the last century. Guided by Zelda's voice to go to Hyrule Castle, Link instead decides to free the Divine Beast before the showdown. Throughout this journey, Link goes to places assigned to a Sheikah Slate in order to remember all the events that occurred a century ago. Upon liberating the Divine Beasts, the spirits of Mipha, Daruk, Urbosa, and Revali grant Link their powers. He would then go to the Lost Woods and enter the Korok Forest, where the Master Sword was sleeping. Link manages to pull the sword from its pedestal once again. After that, the Divine Beast opened fire on Calamity Ganon, thus finally allowing Link access into Hyrule Castle. With the power of the Master Sword and those of the fallen champions, Link critically injures Calamity Ganon. Calamity Ganon will go to Hyrule Field and transformed into Dark Beast Ganon. Zelda will give Link the bow and arrows of light. With the help of Zelda, Link manages to destroy Calamity Ganon. After the battle, Zelda vows to rebuild Hyrule as it starts to flourish again, and Link remains as her protector. Several years have passed since the defeat of Calamity Ganon. Although Hyrule is being rebuilt, not all is well. A mysterious substance known as gloom is affecting the people of Hyrule and making them sick. Link and Zelda go underground of Hyrule Castle to investigate what's causing the gloom. These underground tunnels are decorated with cave paintings of historical events, including a battle against Ganondorf. The two find a chamber where Ganondorf was sealed away in ancient times. Once they enter, the seal is broken and Ganondorf is freed, triggering a cataclysmic event known as the Upheaval. The Master Sword ends up broken, and Link's arm is affected by the gloom. He then awakens in the Sky Islands, and his arm is replaced with a machine-like arm created by the Zonai. He is guided by Rauru and has to travel on the sky, the surface, and even underground in order to save Hyrule. With this new arm grafted onto him, he has the power to create constructs and even combine weapons. In this journey, he reunites with old friends who accompany him and awaken as the sages. They are Yunobo, Tulin, Sidon, and Riju. And another sage turns out to be none other than Minoru herself. Link would then recover the Master Sword from the Light Dragon, who is none other than Zelda herself. Zelda became Draconian after swallowing one of the secret stones to take on the evil Demon King Ganondorf during her time travel to the past. After so many trials and battles, Link and the sages fight the Demon King together. Ganondorf would then resort to become a Dark Dragon. Link and the Light Dragon work together to finally defeat the Demon Dragon. With Hyrule saved, Link, Zelda, and the sages work together to bring a new era of peace and prosperity. Till all are one. And that, my friends, as they say, is that. The Legend of Zelda continues to shine as a game series since 1986. I have been following this amazing series since I first played Zelda 2 when I was very little and had my first Nintendo, the NES, courtesy of my dear parents. My father, God rest his soul, he knew how much I loved the series and sometimes used to tease me about it. Many people debate that the series is a legend rather than a timeline. I would say it's more of a timeline considering how many Links, Zeldas, and Ganons have been throughout the story. Some fans seek to perfect the timeline by making theories. Others want to leave it how it is, yet still debate whether Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and Age of Imprisonment are either a converged or separated from the known timeline and seen as a soft reboot of sorts. Over the years, we have seen various versions of Hyrule, different new worlds, yet the same mission to defend the world from the forces of evil. Lessons we have learned from this series are cultivating courage in the face of adversity, being patient and resourceful, using your intelligence to overcome obstacles, value of partnerships. Courage and wisdom are superior to raw power, and sometimes the best of intentions can have severe consequences. This concludes the World of Timelines episode, The Legend of Zelda Timeline. I am John of Video Games in the World signing off. May the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.